She slammed the door with the kind of finality that didn't need words. Ruby didn't even bother to hide it anymore. Her hair was done like she was walking the red carpet. Tight gym top, fake smile, and that arrogant little twist in her voice when she said, "I'm going for a session with Austin." Austin, the fitness coach, with biceps too big and a brain too small to spell responsibility. She didn't know I had already seen the bank notifications. Didn't know our son, Jake, 10 years old, brilliant like his mother used to pretend to be, had figured it out faster than I did. She didn't know I had stopped sleeping, started watching, connecting the dots between her 6 a.m. runs and her sudden obsession with tanning lotion. She didn't know that 2 nights ago, I saw the hotel reservation under her name, or that I'd installed the keylogger she once accused me of using. But let me rewind. It was 6:42 p.m. when she took her last arrogant step out of our house. She thought she was escaping with a prize. A bag packed like a scene from a cheap movie, cashmere sweaters, high heels, some lipstick that wasn't for me anymore. "I transferred some funds," she said casually. "Jake doesn't need that kind of pressure anyway. Life is short." I said nothing. Just nodded. Like a coward? No. Like a man who's about to watch karma perform live. She'd taken $142,000. That was our son's college fund. Money we'd saved for nearly a decade. She used it like it was hers. Like Jake's future was some toy she could toss aside for abs and a coastal sunrise. By midnight, I sat by Jake's bed. He wasn't asleep. He looked at me, eyes serious beyond his years, and whispered, "Dad, it's okay. I fixed it." "What do you mean you fixed it?" She didn't log out of her face scan. Her face is still linked to my access. "I moved the money back. All of it." "You ever feel your chest fill with so much pride and heartbreak at the same time that you nearly choke?" I hugged him tight. Tighter than I'd ever hugged him. He had saved his own future from his mother. But that wasn't the end. Oh no. That was just Act 1. By 5 a.m., Ruby was back in town. She was standing outside the house, barefoot, shaking, makeup smudged like a clown at the end of a shift. Her car was gone. So was her phone. Her Alpha had vanished the moment the bank declined his card at the hotel. She screamed my name like I owed her something. Like she was the victim. I didn't open the door. Not yet. I watched her from the window. This woman I had loved. The same woman who used to cry when Jake got a cold. Now screaming into the void because her beach fantasy crumbled like the house of lies it was built on. She didn't just betray me. She tried to steal from our son. She called it freedom. She said, "Life is short." She forgot what happens when you burn bridges you still need to cross back over. And now? Her life, by morning, was in ruins. She ran with the cash, but ended up with nothing. The next morning, she sat on our porch like some stray dog that got hit by its own leash. No shoes, no dignity, just trembling fingers and mascara tears. I opened the door slowly, not because I felt sorry, but because I wanted to see how low she'd sink. "Nick," she muttered, her voice barely there. "Just let me explain." I didn't move. I stood there, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the woman I once built a life around. Her lips trembled. Maybe from shame. Maybe from the ocean breeze she didn't expect to face this morning. "It was a mistake," she said. "It wasn't what you think. What I think." I had the bank logs. The video footage from the ATM. The texts between her and Austin. I had the receipts from their hotel. I had everything. Hell, I even had screenshots of her telling him she was done being a mom and wanted to start fresh. "So no, Ruby. It wasn't what I thought. It was worse. You stole from your own son," I finally said. "You lied to me for months. And you left your family for a dude with a six-pack and zero ambition." She stood up then. Or tried to. Her knees buckled slightly, but she forced herself tall. "I needed something different. You don't get it. You work all day, you're always tired, and I needed to feel alive. Alive." I laughed bitterly. "You robbed your son's future for a weekend getaway. You think that's being alive? That's being a damn disgrace." She snapped then. The soft, fake tears vanished like smoke. Her face hardened, her voice sharpened. "Don't you dare talk to me like that. I gave up my youth for you. I raised your son while you chased your little corporate dreams. I deserved more." There it was. The venom. The truth. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted getting caught. "You gave up your youth?" I repeated, stepping forward. "You think Jake was some burden you had to carry? You think this house, this life, you think it was prison? You were the queen of this place. And you threw it all away for a fling with a glorified gym mascot. Don't act like you're perfect," she hissed. "You stopped caring. You stopped touching me. You didn't notice when I cried. Touching her? Crying? That's what it came down to? Her excuses were piling up like garbage. I stared at her in silence. Let her talk. Let her keep digging her own grave. I'm not here to beg, she finally said. I need a place to stay until I figure things out. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out the keys to her old car, the one I'd towed from her boyfriend's hotel, and dropped them on the porch beside her bare feet. Drive somewhere far, I said. Figure things out on your own dime this time. She looked up at me with that mix of rage and disbelief, as if she just realized the game was actually over. You think you're better than me? She whispered. No, I said calmly. I know I am. And so does Jake. I closed the door in her face. Inside, Jake was making cereal. His small fingers moved carefully, like he was trying not to spill even a drop. He looked up and asked, Is she gone? For good this time, I said. He nodded once. Calm. Unshaken. Later that day, we sat together and made a new plan for the future. I opened a new savings account under both our names. I told him we'd call it the Second Chance Scholarship. He liked the name. By evening, Ruby's face was all over the local gossip forums. Turns out, Austin wasn't just a coach, he had a wife. And a baby on the way. She'd been his third client this year to vanish with cash. Guess the abs were more persuasive than his resume. Ruby ended up at a shelter 3 towns over. She'd spent the night trying to contact me, but I had blocked every number, every account, every access point. She had no way back. Not to our house. Not to Jake. Not to me. And honestly, that night, for the first time in years, I slept. Peacefully. A week passed. She tried everything, emails, fake numbers, even left a voice message pretending to be her sister. Desperation doesn't make people smart. It just makes them louder. But I was done listening. Jake was different now too. He wasn't sad. He wasn't confused. He was sharper. Quieter. One evening he asked me, will she try to come back when her boyfriend leaves her? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, really looked, and realized something terrifying. My 10-year-old son understood abandonment better than most grown men. And yeah, Austin left her. Dipped out the second he realized the money was gone. Turns out the fantasy they built collapsed faster than the hotel Wi-Fi. He emptied her purse, ditched her at a gas station near some coast town, and drove off with her laptop. Her cries for help online were brutal. One post said her man robbed her. Another said she was stranded and needed just $200 to get home. You know what I did? Nothing. I watched. I watched as the same woman who once lectured me about loyalty and family cried to strangers for cash. She posted about being a survivor. Said she was scammed. Said people like me, men, were the real problem. Her crocodile tears got a few dozen likes. Maybe someone even Venmo'd her $1 or $2. But nobody saved her. Because that's the thing about burning down your own house. You don't get to complain when it rains. And then came the confrontation she didn't expect. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Jake had just finished homework. I was making dinner. Nothing special. Just pasta and garlic bread. We heard a knock. Not the kind of knock you ignore. The kind that's full of guilt and hope at the same time. I opened the door. There she was. Hair matted, sweatshirt stolen from our laundry, carrying a trash bag full of her clothes. Her lips cracked, eyes swollen. Please, she said. I just want to talk. I didn't even flinch. You need to leave, I said. I have nowhere. That's not my problem anymore. Nick, you don't understand. He lied to me. He said he loved me. He said You stole from Jake, I said, cutting her off. You said, life is short, and ran off. That was your story. Don't try to change it now just because it didn't end the way you planned. She looked past me toward Jake, who stood silently behind me with a look on his face I'll never forget. Not anger. Not fear. Disgust. I'm still his mother, she said, voice shaking. No, Jake replied. You were. Now you're just someone we used to know. I closed the door again. She banged on it, cursed, screamed. Said I was turning Jake against her. But Jake made his choice. He wasn't some pawn in her sick little game. He was 10, but after this, he carried the eyes of someone who'd seen too much too early. That night, I opened a file I hadn't touched in months, our divorce papers. They'd been sitting in a folder, half-filled. I finished them. Quick. Clean. I made sure custody was clear, finances were protected, and Jake's scholarship fund was triple-locked. A few days later, her sister called. Said Ruby was in a hospital. Breakdown. Malnourished. Suicidal thoughts. I nodded. Do you want to visit? her sister asked. No. But she made her choices, I said. Let her live in them. Because that's the truth. You can only save someone who wants to be saved. Ruby wanted freedom. She got it. Full dose. No filter. Meanwhile, Jake and I rebuilt. Slowly. Carefully. He started drawing again. I started laughing again. The silence in the house stopped feeling heavy. It became peace. And the money she tried to steal? It became something better. A new future. Jake's scholarship was just the start. I created a fund for kids who get abandoned by the people meant to protect them. Every time I look at that account, I remember the lesson. Some people only teach you by leaving. And when they do, you let the doors slam behind them. Spring rolled in like it always does, quietly, pretending nothing ever happened. But inside, I was different. Jake too. Our mornings had rhythm again. Breakfast wasn't silent anymore. There was laughter, inside jokes, even stupid arguments about who used the last of the milk. The ghosts of what she did still lived here, sure, but they stopped haunting us. They became reminders. One afternoon I got a letter. Real paper. No return address, but the handwriting, I knew it. Ruby. It was 3 pages of broken logic. Apologies that weren't really apologies. I was confused. You pushed me away. Austin lied to me. Somewhere in the middle, she mentioned the money like it was an accident, like she didn't empty an account meant for our son's future just to chase a temporary thrill. And then she wrote this line. If you ever want to talk, I'll always be here. I still love you. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I burned the letter in the sink. Later that evening, Jake caught a glimpse of the ashes. He didn't ask what it was. He just nodded and said, good. That one word hit me harder than anything in her letter. 2 weeks after that, the court finalized the divorce. No drama. She didn't show up. Probably didn't want to look at what she threw away. Probably couldn't. Then came the part one didn't expect, peace. The real kind. I didn't realize how much weight I had carried until it was gone. No more second-guessing, no more tiptoeing around emotional landmines. Just me and my son, and a future that felt like ours again. One night, out of nowhere, Jake asked me something. Did you ever love her? It took me a second. The easy answer was yes. But that wasn't the full truth. I loved who I thought she was, I said. Not who she became. He nodded like he understood. I think he did, in his own way. We sat there in silence, watching the ceiling fan spin slowly, and I realized something. Jake didn't just lose a mother. He gained a version of his father he might never have seen if all this hadn't happened. I'd been a provider, a protector, but now I was present. The next morning, we went to the bank. I opened a new account, this time in Jake's name only, with full restrictions. I deposited everything from the old scholarship fund, plus more. I told the bank manager to flag any activity that looked remotely suspicious. I wasn't letting history repeat itself. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I told our story. Not with names. Not for revenge. But as a warning. I posted online, anonymously, about how a woman stole from her family, ran off with a gym coach, and lost everything. I shared how a child outsmarted her and saved his own future. How betrayal can either break you or shape you into something stronger. The post went viral. Messages started flooding in. Other fathers. Other men. Even a few women who said they'd seen signs but didn't know how to confront them. It wasn't just my story anymore. It was ours. And in that twisted way, Ruby gave me something she never meant to, purpose. Some weeks later, a mutual friend sent me a photo. Ruby was working at a diner in a town 3 hours south. Hair shorter. Eyes emptier. She looked like someone who was still pretending her choices weren't her fault. I stared at that picture for a long time. Not because I missed her, God no, but because I couldn't believe how far she'd fallen just trying to feel alive. Jake came up behind me. Better. Yeah. He shrugged. She looks like she lost. She did, I said. And we never brought her up again. Now when I look back, I don't think of her perfume on other clothes. I don't think of Austin's smug grin in that hotel lobby security footage. I don't even think of the $142,000 that vanished and reappeared overnight. I think of Jake. And I think of the fire that lit inside both of us when we realized we didn't need her to be okay. We never did. She ran off chasing freedom. We built something better without her. A year passed. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady, like the ticking of a clock you forget is even there until something reminds you to listen. Jake grew taller. His voice changed a bit. He asked smarter questions, challenged me more, and somewhere in the middle of it, I noticed I wasn't just his dad anymore. I was his anchor. We moved. Not far, but far enough. New house, new school, new grocery store that didn't hold echoes of arguments in the produce aisle. I let him pick his room. He chose the one with the window facing the sunrise. Said it made him feel like the day was already on our side. I didn't argue. That boy had earned the right to choose his view. One morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. They called again. I picked up, not because I cared, but because I needed to hear her voice to make sure it still did nothing to me. Nick. It was her. Ruby. Quiet, hesitant, like the venom had dried out. Like even she knew she didn't have fangs anymore. I heard you moved, she said. I didn't respond. I wanted to say, thank you. For not pressing charges. For not dragging my name through court. I know what I did. She paused. I'm trying to be better. I'm in a program now. Working. Got a roommate. I'm clean. That last part made me blink. Clean? She continued. It wasn't just Austin. It was everything. I spiraled. I drank. I got into pills. She exhaled like she had something big to admit, but nothing came. Just air. Empty, like the promises she used to make. I don't want anything. I just wanted to let you know. I think about Jake every day. I waited for the real reason. I'd like to see him. There it was. No, I said. A pause. She didn't argue. That was new. I figured, she said. But I had to try. You're not trying for him, I said. You're trying for yourself. Maybe, she whispered. But. I hope you tell him I said hi. I won't, I replied. He's not curious. The silence that followed felt heavier than any scream she'd ever thrown at me. I'm sorry, Nick, she said, softer now. And for the first time since she ran off, I believed her. But belief didn't equal forgiveness. Some things you can be sorry for and still never come back from. I hope you get better, I said. For yourself. But he's not part of your recovery story. Don't write him into that. Click. She didn't call again. Jake never asked if she did. And I didn't tell him. That same week, he got accepted into a youth tech program, one of the best in the state. Full ride. I told him he earned it. He said, we earned it, Dad. That night, we opened a small bottle of sparkling cider. He toasted. Said, to fresh starts and no more fake people. I laughed harder than I had in months. It wasn't the kind of laugh that covers pain. It was real. Like I'd finally walked through the last room of a burning house and came out clean on the other side. There were still moments. Birthdays. Mother's Day. School events where other kids ran to their moms and Jake just looked straight ahead. But he never faltered. He never pitted himself. He never used her choices as an excuse to be bitter. Because he knew we chose different. One night before bed, I sat beside him, tucked him in like I used to when he was 5. You're proud of me, right? He asked. More than anything, I said. You're the reason I'm still standing. He smiled and turned toward the window, where the last sliver of moonlight stretched across the floor like a promise. And that's the thing no one tells you. Betrayal doesn't always break you. Sometimes it reveals the parts of you that were waiting to wake up. She ran off chasing sparks. We built a fire. Summer came early that year. The kind of warmth that sticks to your skin and makes the world feel slower, like everything's pausing to breathe. Jake had just finished his school term, top of his class, and we started planning a trip, just us. No distractions. No ghosts. Somewhere quiet with water and trees and no cell signal. The day before we left, a letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter, like people used to send when they meant something. It was addressed to Jake. The handwriting was hers. I stood in the hallway staring at it, debating whether to open it or not. My fingers hovered over the flap, but something told me no. Jake's not a boy who needs protecting from the truth anymore. So I knocked on his door and held it out. He looked at it for a second, then at me. You want me to open it? He asked. No, I said. I want you to decide. He took it, turned it over, and without blinking, tossed it in the trash. Didn't even tear it. Just dropped it like it was a leaf that blew in from someone else's yard. I already know who she is, he said. I don't need her to explain it. We didn't speak of it again. The next morning, we hit the road. Windows down, playlist loud, him in the passenger seat with sunglasses too big for his face, pretending to be cooler than he is. We laughed a lot. Took detours. Ate at roadside diners. Found a place by a lake with cabins and fire pits. It felt like the kind of summer I never had growing up. Like the one I wanted to give him before life got in the way. On the third night, we were sitting by the fire. Jake was poking it with a stick, watching the embers dance like stars in reverse. You ever think about being with someone again? he asked. I didn't answer right away. Sometimes, I said, but not the way I used to think about it. What way's that? I used to think I needed someone to complete the picture, I told him. Now I realize the picture's already good. If someone shows up and makes it better, cool. If not, I'm still good. He nodded slowly. I like that. I learned it the hard way, I said, throwing another log on the fire. We sat in silence, the flames crackling like they were telling their own story. And I realized he wasn't just my son anymore. He was becoming my equal. Someone I could talk to. Someone I respected. Later that night, I watched him sleep calm, safe, whole. No confusion in his eyes. No doubt about who he was or where he stood in this world. And that's when it really hit me. She tried to steal from him. Not just money, not just time, identity. She tried to rewrite who he was by walking out and taking the love she was supposed to give with her. But she failed. Because Jake's not a victim of her choices. He's the proof that love, when given right, even if it's broken, even if it's late, can still be enough. When we got back from the trip, I went to the storage unit I'd been avoiding. Opened old boxes. Found pictures from our wedding, birthday cards with her handwriting, notes she used to leave on the fridge before she started leaving with other men. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood there flipping through ghost-like pages in a book I already knew the ending to. Then I grabbed a bin. Filled it. Burned it all in the backyard fire pit that night. Jake came out halfway through. Let me guess, he said, watching the smoke rise. She finally got evicted from your head? I laughed. Something like that. And when the last photograph curled into black ash, I felt something inside me finally snap free. Not pain. Not anger. Closure. She ran off with dreams of freedom and thrill. We stayed and built something solid, something hers would never touch again. Autumn rolled in with colder mornings and sharper skies. The kind that makes coffee taste better and silence feel earned. Jake started middle school. New building, new friends. Same fire in his eyes. We settled into a rhythm I never thought we'd have again. Life was quieter, but not empty. It was full of real things. Clean mornings. Honest talks. No more looking over my shoulder. No more waiting for the next storm. Then, out of nowhere, came the storm I didn't expect. I was at work, on a Thursday, when the school called. Jake had punched a kid. I drove there fast, angry, not at him, but at whatever made him throw his hands. That wasn't him. That wasn't the boy I raised. I sat down in the principal's office across from him. His knuckles were red. His jaw clenched. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She called her a whore, he said flat, quiet. Said I must be broken 'cause my mom ran off like trash. The words hit like a slap. And not because they hurt me, but because they'd hurt him. She said my mom's the reason no one wants to come over to my house. The principal cleared his throat, mumbled something about zero tolerance, but I was barely listening. My focus was on Jake, this kid who carried his silence like armor until someone hit the wrong nerve. I waited until we were outside to say anything. Do you regret it? I asked. He shook his head. No. I know I'm not supposed to hit people, but I wasn't gonna let her talk like that. We got in the truck. Drove in silence. Somewhere along the back roads, he finally spoke again. Am I gonna be like her? The words made me grip the wheel tighter than I should have. You're nothing like her, I said. You fought for someone who didn't deserve it. That's loyalty. That's heart. She ran when things got hard. You stood up. He stared out the window for a while. I just don't want her to be the reason people look at me weird. She's not, I said. They'll look at how you carry it, not what she did. And right now, you're carrying it like a man. That night, I gave him a task. Not punishment, focus. Told him to write a letter. Not to the girl he hit. Not to the school. To her. I said, write it all. Everything you've ever wanted to say. But don't send it. This one's for you. He did. For pages. Folded it once. Taped it shut. Then lit it in the fire pit while I watched. I didn't ask what it said. He didn't offer. But the way he stood watching it burn, I knew it mattered. From that day, something changed in him. He walked taller. Spoke with more weight. Not older, clearer. Like he'd shaken off something heavy that had been riding his back since she left. The next weekend, we built a bookshelf for the living room. He picked the stained color. Walnut, almost black. I let him drill every screw, level every shelf. Later, he lined up his favorite books. At the very top, he put an empty frame. I raised an eyebrow. It's for a photo of us, he said. From the future. One we haven't taken yet. That sentence broke me a little, in the best way. This kid, this man in training, he wasn't looking back anymore. Neither was I. Somewhere out there, she still existed. Probably lying her way through someone else's life. Still blaming the world for a mess she made herself. But her story stopped being part of ours a long time ago. She stole from her family, ran from her responsibilities, vanished with a fantasy, and ended up with nothing. We stayed. We healed. We built something solid, something unbreakable, from the ashes she left behind. Winter came soft that year. No heavy snow, just quiet air and gray skies that didn't press down too hard. Jake turned 12. I got him a second-hand camera. Said he wanted to start capturing the real stuff. Not selfies. Not fake smiles. Just life, as it is. One afternoon, he came home with a photo. Black and white. A stray dog sitting outside a grocery store, soaked in rain, eyes hollow. He slid it across the table to me. I don't know why, he said. But this one, it reminded me of her. I looked at the photo, and I saw it too. But I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. Just distance. She was a shadow now. A cautionary tale told in the corners of our story. Her name never came up anymore, and when it did, it was like saying the name of a storm long past. You acknowledge it. You don't invite it back. One night, near the end of the year, Jake asked me something I didn't expect. If she knocked on our door, really broke down and begged, would you ever let her in? I stared at the fire. Let it crackle a while before I answered. No, I said, because this door isn't mine anymore. It's ours. And I won't open it to someone who once tried to burn everything behind it. He nodded. Didn't ask anything else. Didn't need to. A few days later, I found the frame on the bookshelf wasn't empty anymore. Jake had printed a picture of us. We were sitting on the porch, side by side, coffee in hand, both wearing mismatched socks. It wasn't posed. Just real. Underneath, he'd written one word in marker. Survivors. I didn't change it. Because that's exactly what we were. She ran off with promises, lies, and stolen money, thinking she'd found a shortcut to something better. She left a son, a husband, a home, and thought the world would hand her a happy ending because she wanted one. But life doesn't reward betrayal with peace. She ended up alone. We didn't. We stayed. We fought. We healed. And when the fire died down, we built something stronger in the ashes. And if you ask me what I learned through all of it, here's what I'd say. Don't chase the ones who run. Protect the ones who stay. And never let broken people convince you that love should hurt. The world doesn't owe you loyalty. But your son does. And you owe him the same. So I closed that chapter. For good. And started writing the next one. With clean hands, clear eyes, and a door that only opens to love that stays.